Hey folks, welcome back. Thanks again for joining us. We have 5 captures that I saw online and we're going to get into them today. So usually I do a recap after we go through the captures. This time we're doing a pre-cap as well as a recap. So in other words, we're just going to touch on all 5 of these things right off the bat so you see what we're about to get into. And then we'll get into them a little more detail, recap them at the end, and then be done. So all right, so here we go, pre-cap time. The first one we're going to look at is this. Comes from the bottom left, comes across this plane. Second one comes from left to right underneath. And yeah, that's an interesting, well, these are all interesting. I should probably stop saying that. This one, again, bottom left, and then banks to the right after coming up to this plane. The fourth one is like a Foo Fighter type of thing. It shoots right by. And then this fifth one is one that just hovers for a second, paces the planes, comes up to them, and then takes off. All right, so that's what we got. Let's get into these things a little bit, see what we can see. Here we go. Here's number one. This is interesting right off the bat because to me it looks like it's reflective, like the sun is hitting the top of it and not the bottom, and that's sort of a traditional look. I don't know if that's actually the case. It's what it looks like to me. That's it in that first frame. Next frame, it's right up next to the airplane. Seemingly, we don't know how close to these planes versus the camera these things are, but again, these things are so constant. Eventually, you have to say to yourself, like, well, what are the odds of this happening and not being associated with the airplane, right? All right, so that's that one shot, and this is it a few times in real speed. I think this thing is in 4 frames total. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, why is it always around? Why are these things always around airplanes and aircraft or things in the air, I should say? These things are always around stuff. I don't know. Okay, so before we get to number two here, this one was from a couple weeks ago, number 105, and you can go back and check that video out on the channel. It was entitled Aerial Events in Plain Sight. And when I showed you this, I thought, my sense was this is just some insect or something going in front of the camera. And there's nothing to base that on. It was just my sense, my feeling, even though there's no obvious sign of propulsion, right? So now I'm starting to reassess that because of this, number two. Um, yeah, I mean, it's the virtually the same type of thing. I don't know. I mean, what do we make of this? This is the spot right here where I see it most easily, but this is it a few times over in real speed. I mean, if it was really close to the camera, it would be gigantic if it's consistent with all the other insects and things that we record. So I don't know how close to the camera it is, but again, there's no obvious sign of propulsion or stabilization. I mean, how is this thing moving through our environment? It's just very perplexing. So maybe I shouldn't be so quick to write this off as an insect like I did a few weeks back. Anyway, all right. So here's another interesting one. And again, these are all online. None of these are mine. And this thing comes up from the bottom left, hits this plane, and then banks to the right, and it accelerates too once it leaves the plane. You'll be able to see that better in real speed. But this is a bird. And if you're like, how do you know that? I know it because I zoomed in and slowed it down, and that's what it looks like once I did it. To me, that's very obviously a bird. So anyway, I want to point that out because it's relevant. So the bird's there, and then this thing, which I do not think is a bird, comes up, gets next to the plane, then banks off to the right and gets out of there. This is it in real speed, and you can see what I'm talking about when I say it accelerated. I mean, to me, it moves really quickly after getting up to the airplane. Um, yeah, and again, like all these things, I don't know what they are, but there's no obvious sign of propulsion. I don't know how it's steering. I don't know why it's able to just seemingly come right up to an airplane. Doesn't seem to be affected by the wake or anything. um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. um, okay, so before we move on, I just want to address this bird versus not a bird distinction real quick and take a look at this. So I showed you, I'm like, this I think is a bird because I feel like I say wings. I mean, I'm not going to overcomplicate it. It looks like a bird. But then this thing, I don't see wings, right? And side by side, this is what they look like. So one looks like a bird and one doesn't. Uh, and, so that's why I say, and I guess in some sort of matter of fact sort of fashion, like, well, this is not a bird. I should really say it doesn't look like a bird, and because I have a bird to contrast it with. And so again, comes up, and I don't know how it's moving through space. There's no wing flapping, but it seems to have directional capabilities. And then it turns, and then it accelerates at this crazy rate of speed. So I don't know. All right, let's get on to number four. Number four is like I mentioned the outset, almost like a little Foo Fighter situation. This is with the contrast change, you can see it a bit better. But yeah, there's an airplane, and then this thing rockets through the scene. Um, and it's not in a lot of frames, but that's kind of a marker of how fast it's going. And we'll see it here at real speed in a second. And for my eye, this is where I see it the easiest, right there. But yeah, this is it in real speed. I don't know, these things are all over the place. I can't imagine being a pilot, and I mean, how often you see these, or if you can see them, or I don't know. It's fascinating to me, but you can't say it's not happening. I mean, it's in all of this footage all over the internet. I don't know why more people aren't seeing these things and just going, like coming up with questions. But okay, so listen, we're getting on to number five here. Probably going to spend the most amount of time on this one. But before we get to it, remember I showed you this a few weeks back in number 103, and this thing caught up to the airplane and then got up to cockpit level, hung out for a second at the same pace, and then left. And it was right up here. I'm going to pause it here. This is where I was focused the most because it seemed to be maintaining the same speed as the plane momentarily, and then it took off. And so with number five here, we have a similar situation. This thing comes up to airplane level, hangs out for a moment, goes closer to the plane, and then takes off. Look at this. And luckily, the cloud cover allows us to see, in my opinion, it better allows us to see, you know, the fact that it seems to be moving at the same rate as the planes, at least momentarily. And I know it's tough to tell, but it comes up from the bottom, pops up here, and then keeps it moving. And it's cartoonishly fast. This is it in real speed. Um, you know, I, I don't know what to make of this, but it's hard to argue, in my mind at least, it's hard to argue that this is just an insect when you see this type of behavior repetitively in footage after footage after footage. Um, and it stops on a dime too, not to mention that it starts to pace the planes. And so, like I showed you this one and this pacing right here momentarily, and we're going to scrub through on this one. This is a scrub through, and you can see from the clouds, it got up to that distance or that altitude, and then it like hung out with the planes for a moment. Yeah, and then got in a little closer, and then took off. I think it's amazing. I don't know what it is, but I think it's amazing. Okay, recap time. So this first one, again, it seemed to be reflecting off the top, like the sun was hitting it. I don't know if it was or not. And then this thing zips by, and the more of these I see, the more I'm starting to question these. And then this thing, we had the bird for comparison, which is great, and it accelerates after it hits the plane. And then we have this Foo Fighter situation where there's just no explanation, but it's really cool looking, and it seems to happen quite a bit. And then this last one, man, I mean, come on. This thing gets up there, hangs out, paces the planes, gets a little closer, and dips out. I don't know. Okay. Hopefully, you guys have some opinions on these things. Get in the comments, please. It'll be helpful if you use the number system so we can, talk about these things more specifically. But yeah, weigh in with your thoughts. I mean, I don't know. There's only five of these, but it's not like five of the same thing in a row. This is a pretty good little variety of different things going on. But I don't know, folks. Thanks for your time. get in the comments. See you on the next one.